Now we're making the wool balls to create the tassels on the end of the snowshoes. My preference is every second position. And what I'm doing here is I've got three colors, and I'm just doing 14 wraps. That seems to be the right bunch that it'll compress and tighten in here, can't slip, and not too small that we can have a creative little tassel. Okay, now that they're all made, this is number 18 nylon braided twine. Very, very resilient, very long life wearing, doesn't rot. Now what we've got done here is I've got the end melted to form a bit of a needle, so it makes it just a little bit easier to go in and out of these holes. And what I've got to do is I'm going to start here, have a good estimate as to how long a piece I need to come back here, because you don't want to join in this particular cord. And then we'll tie it off and we'll start to install all these tassels around here and secure this cord. And in this particular case here, it's always better to be extra long than short, because if you're short, you start all over again. So we're going to cut it off. We're going to prepare this end like a needle for the next string. Always wet your fingers when you start the back part of this, because that molten string will do a little nasty job on your finger. This is the part that nobody likes to do in the snowshoe making classes. They always burn their fingers a little bit. So that one's ready for the next. Now on this particular one, because it's a soft end nylon, we're just going to burn it off a little bit so it can penetrate for the knot. Now in this particular position, a normal reef knot is no good. A normal reef knot will slip and burn. What we have to tie in here is a bowline. And it's just a regular one hand over knot. And then we pull it up, and it's going to create a big loop. What we have to do is take this string back underneath and get it through that loop. Now what we have to do is gather up all the slack so that the knot is as close to the beam as possible. I'm going to do that by pulling this end and slipping this knot down as we're straining it. So I'll push that as far as I can, and now I'm going to put pressure on this one that closes up the loop, and then tighten it. That knot won't slip. But we have to get rid of this, so we'll snip it off. And then we're going to burn it down. Again, wet the finger and stop the melting process just as it nears the knot. So that's our starting position. Now, if this needle point is small enough, it's a little bit too tight. So we're going to cut that off and do it over. Sometimes the string just doesn't want to cooperate. Let's see what our fit is like now. Still a little tight, and it needs to be a little bit longer. Now, try to keep the twists out of this as it gets through. I'm going to make this just a little tiny bit longer. Now we're going to bring it back in through. And never pull the string fast because the nylon will generate heat, particularly when it's against itself, and that could cause it to burn a little bit and melt. So now I'll open this up. All we're doing is one single overhand knot to go through here. We're going to pull this one tight, and now we're going to install one of the wool balls in here. Now for this step, most people will need a small finger awl or some little protection because it has to be very, very, very tight. What it's doing is, because it's a braided nylon, it's compressing the wool down into the little selvages that we have, and it's tightening itself so that it can't slip back. Now we'll proceed through to the next hole, and we'll skip the wool on this one. Now we'll get it back enough just to put our single overhand knot, like so. And we'll take out the twists, secure that in, keep a little tension. See how this twists up? You got to be very careful with those. They will actually cause a knot, and it's difficult to get out after you put so much tension on it. So that's very, very, very tight. Very important. And we'll take another little wool ball. Make sure the twist is out. Get a good compression on it. And again, nice and tight. So we'll get this string through here again. And again, the tassels, the preference is most of the women, a lot of the kids, and some men. A lot of people think they're just for aesthetics. Some of the older fellows that used to do snowshoes put a tassel on every string because they think that it prevents the string from a premature wear. But these mortises really protect it. Because if this string wears off and is protruding anywhere along this frame, and that chafes off, this whole end will come out of the snowshoe. Okay, now that we have all the tassels on this top end, we're going to do the looping to finish off this selvage cord twine back over on this side here. And again, it's just a simple single knot, but remembering to keep your tensions. So now I'll take a strain here. Feed it through. Always pull the tension from the single leg and then pull. So it's staying nice and tight. Okay, let's get that last one again. There we go. As I said earlier, 2 half hitches, but we've got to lock the knot. This one has to be very tight. And we get our second hitch. Now, in order to lock this knot, I've got to sneak this end back through this little cavity where the previous one was done. And we're going to lock knot it over the main cord. Feed it back here because we want the knot to be back here to get the best tension and to protect it a little. So that's going to pop back through there. Now we're going to cut it off. And there's nothing like a little molten twine to melt back and fuse that whole assembly of that knot. Don't forget to wet your finger. So what that gives us is a nice finish, lots of tension all around. This will stretch a little bit, but with a wrap cord to put on here and the gradual filling, any little bit of tension in each one won't cause this string to migrate way in to reduce the impact of the webbing all through the whole end. Now what we have to do is, in order to fill these, to prevent that wandering of the string way from there, we have to put a wrap cord all around here. Now this particular pair will be filled with green, blue, and white twines. So I don't want to use any of those colors for this wrap, because after the snowshoe is completely filled, 2 things had to be cut back. This wrap cord is going to go around like so, and these tassels will all have to be trimmed. If we trim them first, they'll taking the 20 odd hours to fill the snowshoes, they'd get rather ratted. So we're going to leave them like this until it's done, and then we can turn them down really nice. So this first wrap, going to burn the ends, keep our little needle effect going. Going to put a little eye in here. Like so. And now we'll wrap this in inch or inch and a half increments all the way across and finish it. And then we'll do the other end. And when this step is completed, the frames are ready to start the filling process. Okay, now we're just gonna a couple half hitches. This doesn't have to be fused like the other knots because it's only temporary till we have the fiddling done. Now we'll turn it over. Secure this just by putting a small knot over those double half hitches. And now we'll do the other end. Your friend through this process is your lighter and an awl. Especially with these poly twines. They're very difficult to knot if the ends are not melted back and fused. Okay, again, we got our loop. Get our first hitch in there. Turn it over. Get our second one. And secure that knot. And cut away the waste. So now, this whole frame is ready for assembly. My preference is to fill the ends first. So this end here in this particular case will be white. That's going to take approximately 30 feet of line. And that'll be probably 2 mil twine. The toe here I'm going to do in a green. That'll take a 2 or 2.5 mil twine. That'll be about 45 feet. And in the middle in this particular pair I'm going to do with a blue 4 mil twine. Each one of these will take about 120 feet of twine. Now the difficulty with the long pieces of twine is it's very cumbersome to fill. So the tail I'd probably do in one piece. It's manageable. But anything over 30 feet becomes too long, too tangled, and too twisted. When you get into heavy polys and you're needing approximately 120 feet for this particular pattern middle, I'll probably do it in a 60-foot increment and then two 30-foot increments. But when we're doing that, we'll discuss about hiding the knots or hiding the joins and fusing it so that there's nothing that would be impeding your foot comfort, as in a knot or a little glob in the middle of the twine, because you want all the joins to hide out here on the edges of the snowshoe. And you can do that with the loops and twists.